Welcome. My name is Hamed Yazdi, the Business Development Manager for Tech30. Thank you very much for joining us today on this webinar. We'll give just another minute real quick for anybody who's coming in before we jump into the actual content, but for now I'll take this time to introduce ourselves, teach you a little bit about our company, and also give you a quick intro of the purpose of this webinar and what we hope that you'll leave today with extra knowledge, specifically around Creo 4. So my name is Hamed Yazdi, and today we have with me Dustin Mayfield. He's our application engineer at Tech30, and we actually have a guest from PTC as well. We have an application engineer with us, Andrew Harrison. He'll be handling the Q&A section at the end. But before we get into that, let's talk about who we are and what Tech30 does. So Tech30 is a PTC partner. We're actually a platinum partner, which is the highest level of partner that you can be in the software reselling space with PTC. And our main goal is to help customers solve their engineering challenges, not only by providing the software that we specialize in through PTC, but also we provide engineering services to them. We help them with their projects. Sometimes you may have a project which requires some expertise that perhaps your company does not have. Maybe you need a temporary contractor. We have a vast network of people in our services organization, and so we can help out with those. Those can include PLM deployment systems, various CAD systems. It doesn't have to just be PTC. We also have experts in any of the major CAD systems. So please feel free to resort to us if that ever applies to your projects. We also provide training. If you ever have the need to learn a certain extension or anything that is outside of your realm of knowledge, or you want to upgrade from a certain version of the product to a newer version, chances are we do have a training module on that. And obviously for support, whether it's licensing, configuration, installation, feel free to reach out to us. Dustin is the main application engineer that helps our customers with their licensing issues, and he makes himself available at all hours. So please do not hesitate to reach out if you are having any issues with that. One other thing I'd like to mention is that we have a large network professionally and personally within the industry. We love getting to know our customers. Please give us the opportunity to get to know you, understand your business, because chances are we have people in the industry that we can refer you to, connect you with. Our goal is to not just empower you with the software that you want, but also empower you with your network and help you expand and really grow your business. We want to make this a mutually beneficial partnership. So I ask that you kindly give us the opportunity to get to know you and what you're doing so we can make recommendations to help you become more productive and more efficient, as well as expand your business network. So let's talk about the purpose of this webinar. We are going to go over Creo 4 and help you understand what some of the major differences are between Creo 3 and Creo 4 and what all the buzz is about. And I'm sure you've seen lots of emails from PTC, a lot of marketing out there on Creo 4 claiming that it's the most productive platform. Let's go into a little bit of detail of why that is, what some of the extra extensions are, and obviously there's a lot to go over, so what Dustin has done is he's narrowed it down to a few items that we believe would be most relevant to the audience that's available here. We will have a Q&A session at the end, so during the webinar, please feel free to just use the chat box in the lower right-hand corner of your screen within the GoToWebinar session, and we will be sure to address those questions at the end, and Andrew will be addressing those. So Dustin, without further ado, please go ahead and I'll hand it over to you now.
All right, well thank you, Hamed. Let's go ahead and get this started here. So as Hamed said, there's a lot inside of Creo 4. There's been a lot of buzz around it. PTC is extremely excited about this release. This is one of the biggest releases they've had in terms of how much stuff they've integrated inside of here. We could talk for hours and days about all the stuff that PTC has put in here, but today I really want to focus in and narrow down to productivity improvements. So the 5 that you see on the screen, the design for additive manufacturing, model-based definition, augmented reality, and design for connectivity, which is that new IoT stuff, is all stuff that has been integrated inside of Creo 4.0. But what we really want to focus on is we kind of want to narrow it down to productivity improvements. I chose this because this is what I hear most from you guys as our customer base, and what is important to you. How is your day-to-day going to be affected by Creo 4.0? How can you design more efficiently, more easily, with less hassle, less frustration? So productivity improvements is really what we're going to focus on today. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to release a poll right around now If you guys could all participate in it, that would be great. We're going to ask what other areas of Creo 4.0 are you interested in seeing, so that way in the future we can tailor content and more webinars for that type of information, for that type of stuff. So, and if we don't get enough interest in a certain subject, but we get 1 or 2 people that are really interested in it, I would be glad to do a personal tutorial off to the side or send you some more information on that. So please feel free to participate in that poll. It'd be really helpful for us, and it's going to ask which ones you're most interested in. So as I said, we really want to focus on productivity improvements today. So let's take a quick look at our agenda for today. Now, this is kind of the tip of the iceberg in terms of productivity improvements. There's a lot inside of here, but we want to keep this kind of a short and sweet demo. So we're going to talk about 5 or 6 main topics. The first one being usability. How has the UI changed? What is this new full screen mode that we keep hearing about? What can you further do to customize your user interface to make it more applicable to what you do day to day? I know this is very important for a lot of users. I've seen some really crazy setups that are really tailored to how you are modeling. So that's really important to a lot of our customer base. So we're going to touch base on that and talk about the UI. Now, the second thing we're talking about is part modeling. Now, this is obviously one of the biggest things inside of a CAD program. This is what CAD was designed around and what it's meant for is part modeling. So how has Creo 4.0 improved part modeling? How has it made your standard day-to-day designs and activities more efficient, less time-consuming, less frustrating, keeping a cleaner model tree? Those are all very important things. How can you take a feature that used to take me 3 to 4 features to do and narrow it down and do it all now in just one? So we're going to kind of touch base on how we can do that and what changes have been done around that. The next thing is intelligent mirroring. I'm not sure how many of you do complex or intelligent mirroring. I know this has been a real headache for engineers in the past when they've had to deal with complex geometry, sub-assemblies, and they want to mirror that part. It takes what used to take hours to do can now take a couple seconds with just a symmetry analysis. We'll kind of dive into that. Now, the Unite and flexible modeling is not new to Creo 4.0. However, I think they're still extremely important to touch base on and talk about again. There has been some changes to flexible modeling in terms of Sheetmetal, so we'll talk a little bit about that. But again, you'll see some of the Unite technology as we go through a demo. And again, tip of the iceberg, there's a lot inside of productivity improvements, but we're going to really touch base on things that you guys have asked for the most, that you guys, I believe, want to see the most. So we're going to go through that. So let's go ahead and get started here. Let me go pull up my model here. Okay. So the story here is we have a standard, robot design here. We have this 2-pronged little gripper. We have some other features and nifty things on it. We actually have some of this lattice structure up here. This is actually some of the 3D printing stuff, the additive manufacturing that is new in Creo 4.0. We're not going to dive into this today, but I kind of want to show you that there's some lattice built into this. So this is a 3D printable part, and it can really reduce weight with that lattice structure. So I think that was really interesting to kind of highlight to begin with. But let's first look at our right side here. So let's talk about some of this part modeling. Actually, before we get into part modeling, let's take a quick look at the user interface and how that's changed. Since the advent of Creo 1.0, PTC has really pushed the user interface. They've really wanted to make it as clean and approachable as possible. Right? Obviously, there's a lot of different tools and functionality inside the user interface, so sometimes it can get quite tedious to go find stuff. Again, you can use the command search up here to look for what you're trying to do, but you can also fully customize it. That's what makes it so great. You can hide the items that you don't really use, that you don't think is applicable to you, and you can really clean it up. But the first thing we're going to look at is this new View Manager. Let me zoom back out here. So what is new is appearance states. So in the past, you would have to create a new copy of your assembly or model and apply different colors to it to see what it looks like in different settings, right? You could also mess with family tables. You could do simplified reps to get kind of your different appearances. But now there's this new appearance state inside the View Manager. We can create different appearances and apply different shading and colors to certain areas. So it really makes it kind of easy and quickly can jump back and forth. That used to be a headache for a lot of people. Now it's just all built in. So you can just quickly switch between views. Now another thing, I'm sure a lot of you guys have been in here before, but the options menu, what is a lot of new things in here in terms of the customization. So, we can customize not just the ribbon, we can customize the shortcuts, your map keys, your quick access toolbar. All this stuff is fully customizable. Now what is new in this is you can apply this to not just your current mode, but all modes. So no matter what sector or what app you're working in inside of the Creo suite, the UI changes will be applied throughout the entire suite of Creo. This used to be a pain back in the day, with some of the earlier versions of Creo, because you would have to go individually for each app, set up your user interface. Now it's just seamlessly done through all modes. So that's some of the basic UI. Again, most of the stuff is pretty familiar to you guys. The ribbon interface, it's nicely clean, but it's all customizable. So I definitely recommend spending some time in there and customizing it. Before I get to part modeling, I do want to say I recommend giving Creo 4.0 a shot. I know a lot of you guys have already put it into production environments. Feel free to, if you're not a current customer, you don't currently own Creo, the trial version of Creo 4.0 is out. You can give it a shot there. If you are, I highly encourage you to upgrade to Creo 4.0, give it a shot, put it in your production environment, or even just keep it in a development environment where you can test it out, make sure it is relevant and can be used for you. So before we kind of get into it, I want to point that out. So let's kind of get into part modeling here. So the story here is we want to build a bracket, right? We have this arm here. We want to create a bracket at this point to be able to allow that movement of the arm. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and activate this model. And let's go ahead and display our planes here. And so the first thing I want to show you guys is as you click on different sections of your interface, of your design, we get this pop-up toolbar here. Now instead of moving your mouse all the way up to the top to this to the drop-down menu to this toolbars up here, you can now choose exactly what you want to do from just a left click, right? You don't have it's less mouse traveling speed, less mouse traveling time, so it saves you a little bit of time here and there. So it makes your clicks a little bit more efficient, a little bit easier to do. So I'm gonna hit extrude, and the first thing I want to look at is a couple things. So I'm gonna zoom back out here. We have this new clipping feature. So if we can clip model, it'll clip it to our sketch plane, so we can kind of more cleanly see where we're working. And then let's go into our sketch. So one of the first things I want to show you guys is the right mouse button. So if I hold down right mouse button, I get my sketch tools that come up. This used to be not the case. You would have to go up into your toolbar menu and choose from there exactly what you want to do. And with this, we are now able to go into full screen mode. So if you look at the icon on the bottom left here, or hit F11, you can enter full screen mode. Now this gives you it reduces clutter. It allows you to focus more cleanly on your project, so you're not distracted by all the toolbars and buttons, and especially for people that are working on smaller monitors, you can now have this completely full screen. This take up my entire width of my screen, and you can work cleanly in here, and all the stuff that you need to do can be done with the right click. So another feature is the snapping tool as well. As I'm moving my mouse and going over these different references, I get the ability to, it will snap to it, and it'll pop up relevant references that you need to use. So I'm going to go ahead and borrow the reference from the center of the circle here, drag out, and as I'm dragging out, it'll snap to the edge and automatically build in those references for me, instead of in the future, going in and have to manually put them in. I can do the same thing and just drag out here. I'm going to choose a line. Now, as you can see, it's a little hard to see here, but as I'm falling down with my mouse, I get a little blue dotted line, kind of a trailing line that indicates where that center of the circle is. So I want to keep that in line with where I'm going, so I can put in my line here, and I can automatically build in a tangent reference just by that snap click that I was talking about before. And if I need an additional tool, I can do a couple things. I can either add it into my right mouse button, or I can just go up and have my drop-down toolbar come up. I can go and clean up this sketch a little bit, delete this segment. Okay, and just still in full screen mode, I can go ahead and accept what I've done here. I'm going to actually leave full screen mode now and take a look at what this looks like. So what is useful to use, it's not new, but what is useful is you can hold shift down and drag in this sketch and have it reference this edge right here, so it extrudes to that edge. But what is new, however, is now the ability to do a two-sided extrusion. So if I right click and say side 2, I can now do a second extrusion from the side. So this used to take 2 features to do, meaning there was 2 items that would show up in your model tree. Now we're able to do this with just 2 features. So I can right click and just hit, I want to do a two-sided extrusion, set this to that, go ahead and accept it, and we'll go ahead and also right mouse button mirror component across this plane. So now we have this piece here. So again, it's these simple little things that are going to have a big impact on how you use this tool. You know, all these enhanced capabilities and all these new features are going to help designers save time and increase your design productivity. So it really keeps things clean. It's the simple things that really matter most to a lot of our users. That's what we're really trying to highlight in this showing of it. We go a little bit further. We can even open this part here. And I'll show a few more things we can do. Let me look at the side here. So the next story here is we want to build an additional geometry, right? We want to build some sort of geometry in between, maybe another extrusion. Normally in the past, we would have to fiddle with this datum plane to get it kind of towards the center. We want to start building from the center of this this cut here, of this hole. So to do that, we would either have to create, an offset plane. We'd have to fiddle with it a bit to make sure it's, it's center. There's a few other things you could do, but it could be quite tedious and annoying for an engineer. But now we have the ability to create a mid-plane. So if I can just select these two references and go to plane, I can now create this mid-plane here, and just seamlessly done like that. And I can go ahead and left-click it again and extrude off of it, and get back right into my extrusion area. So if I right-click, I have my sketch tools. This is fully customizable, obviously. I can go to Customize, and if there's a command that I don't have in here that I do want, I can type in center rectangle, for example. And I can just drag it and drop it right in here. Now I already have it, so I'll not add it for now. But again, all your commands, your primary commands, your secondary, and your section commands can all be customized and added into this right mouse button. That way you really can eliminate having to go up to that toolbar, which is just unnecessary, mouse time that you don't need. So go ahead and click on that. Oops, I actually forgot to hit center rect. I actually took it out, so let me go find it again. Let's see, where did I put it? Oh. There you go. I don't know where it disappeared to, but there it is. All right, so again, we have that snapping feature, right? So as I'm dragging this, it's snapping automatically and building those references for me. I'm going to set this to 1. And hit OK and see this extrusion here. Now again, we're going to do a two-sided extrude, but let's first extrude this to this surface here. If we look at the back end, we can right-click and say add a second side and extrude to this next surface. Let's hide these planes to keep it a little cleaner here. Okay, now another option that we have here that would take another 2 more features is we can now do a negative offset. So if we go into our options menu and choose both sides, we now have the option to do a negative offset. So I can just drag this in here and set this to 0.25. Same thing on this end. I can drag this in. Actually, I think I got it right on there, 0.25. Now we can do a negative offset. So what does this all mean? This used to take 4 features to do, right? Meaning we would have 4 things that would show up on our model tree. That doesn't seem like a lot, but when you start having to do this with a really complex part and complex geometry, it can really add up. So anytime in the future I want to go and edit this part, in the past I would have to edit 4 different features if I want to, if my design requirements change, for example. Now it's all just built into this one extrude. So now all I have to do is just edit this one extrude. I can go in and make changes just to this one extrude instead of going into all 4 different ones. So that saves a lot of time. It keeps things really clear and concise inside your model tree, which is extremely important. Your model tree is where a lot of things live. And I've seen model trees that scroll on for quite some time. So hopefully this is really relevant to some people who are using some really complex parts. Now this next item I actually really thought was fantastic. It's really simple, but it's now built into Creo 4, and it's really going to save a lot of people a lot of time, and that's box select. One of our customers told me that they individually select many surfaces and edges when they instead would love. It's a big tedious task for them to do. So now it's built in where you can do a box select. Let me change this to edges here. If I left mouse button down and drag a box around this, I'll select all the edges that I went over there. I can go ahead and right click again and add around. And just like that, I was able to box select all the edges I have on this area, on these extrusions, and create a quick round. So let me show you one more thing with that as well. So if I start from the left and drag right, it'll box select everything that it encompasses, right? So like this edge, for example, these two edges here, it can fully encompass this edge. But instead, if I want to start from the right and drag left, it'll highlight all the edges that it touches. So it's this little thing that you wouldn't know right off the bat, but now that you do, give it a shot if it's definitely relevant to you. This could really save a lot of time. It's these really simple things that are going to have a big impact on what you do. Okay, so let's go on to the next topic here. So the next story we have here is this little robot camera. Maybe it has a lens on top of it. Obviously, it needs some way to navigate, so very important to have a camera here. We're going to go ahead and hide the shell. Let's first unhide that, and we have the camera shell, so let's hide this. So obviously there's two lenses, and we have one camera here. So we need to mirror this camera over and be able to get a camera to be on this other piece. So in the past, this would be quite difficult to do. This camera has a lot of different components to it. The question to ask is, what components do we have to reuse? What do we mirror? What parts can we exclude and we don't need? That's a pretty good question, and that used to take engineers quite some time to figure out and do. So now there's a new component built into Creo 4.0 that makes intelligent mirroring and complex mirroring very proactive and easy to do. So I'm going to go ahead and I first need to see my datum planes here. Choose my camera, and again, a simple mirror component. We have this standard interface we've seen before. I'm going to choose my right plane to mirror against. Now what is new here is the perform symmetry analysis. So if I click on that, I click on advance, what it's going to do is it's going to go through and analyze this component. What it's not going to do is say, okay, let's mirror every single component, right? That's what you would probably do in the past, is mirror every single component. What it will do, though, is analyze that camera lens, and it's going to choose intelligently what I want to mirror. It'll go through and say what I want to reuse, what can't I reuse, what is really complex and that's going to fail, and then it's going to allow the user to make changes to that. So if we see from here, we see my camera lens here. I can go ahead and turn on my glasses to see a preview of that. We have this entire option we can go through. You can see there's quite a bit to this camera here. A lot of different pins, little components in here, and we can choose what I actually want to do on it, whether we want to reuse it, exclude it, or mirror the geometry. So there's now built-in functionality into the symmetry analysis, to this complex mirroring, that really allows more flexibility in terms of how you're mirroring. And this used to take, what used to take hours to do, we now have just done in seconds and minutes. So we hit OK, and we'll see this camera be mirrored and rebuilt. And just like that, we've got a second camera optimized and mirrored intelligently. So very proactive. I'm going to go ahead and turn my shell back on, kind of close it back up. Okay, so the last thing I want to show you guys is a little bit about the Unite technology again, and a little bit of flexible modeling. Talk a little bit about Sheetmetal as well. So Unite's not new, but it's very powerful and very important. And a lot of you guys, I encourage you to use it. I mean, a lot of you guys obviously are dealing with complex assemblies, but you're using vendor parts, supplier parts, which is very, very common to do. So I just opened up a SOLIDWORKS part here. I'm going to do a default constraint. So the story here is we got this part, from a supplier or vendor. The issue we have with this part is a little too small, right? It's good on the right side, it looks like, but we need to extend it a little bit more to the left side. So the issue comes in here is, okay, well, in the past we'd have to go back to our supplier or vendor and say, hey, you need to redo this part and make it, as per what my requirements are. And that could take time, effort. You have to go through multiple stages of communication. You have to wait days for the designers to take it and do some simple geometry changes. Well, now with Unite, we're able to do late-stage design changes. So we can go ahead and convert this to a Creo model on the fly. And what it's doing here is, we kept it as a SOLIDWORKS part to begin with. Now we're converting it into a Creo model that will allow us to make important design changes to it. So we can also go down, click on this, and another thing we can do is convert this into a Sheetmetal part. Go to Operations and convert to Sheetmetal. choose my driving surface, hit OK. And just like that, now it's a sheet metal part. So what we can do here is now make some flexible modeling, late stage design changes to it. So if we go into our flexible modeling tab, I know many of you are familiar with this. There's some new things with flexible modeling in terms of sheet metal. We have the same tools that you've seen before, but some are now more tailored to sheet metal in terms of you can recognize bends, you can edit corner, you can edit reliefs. That's all new inside of Creo 4.0. We won't dive into that today, but I just want to quickly kind of show you that, what it looks like. I will show you how flexible modeling works, however. And I'm going to click on a few edges here. Actually, let me first, before I hit move, let me select the edges I want to work with. So I want to work this cut here. And I can set up a simple move function and have it move based on this edge here. Now, I'm not going to make it perfect, but I'm going to view this normally, and I'm going to extend this until it approximately covers this hole here. Now, obviously, you probably want to make this exact, but for the sake of time, I'm just going to extend it until it gets about that hole. We can take this a little bit further and make some more changes to it. Let's go ahead and open my part up here. So we obviously have to do a few more things. Obviously, we need to add additional. These cutouts need to be extended a little bit. Maybe there's some things we don't need and we can remove. So let's go ahead and quickly go through that. I can go ahead and do my box select here. Go back into flexible modeling. Click on pattern. It'll recognize the pattern that you currently have. You can go into options and say allow edit. And instead of the 3 instances I have, I can make a 4th one. And I just said that black dot indicates the positioning of this next cutout. Again, I can do this for this other cutout here. Do a quick little pattern. Allow edits and choose this to be 3 instances instead of 2. Right, so we've seen this before, but again, more tailored for sheet metal now. Sheet metal before it used to be near impossible to edit. Right, especially to do late stage design changes. Editing these corners and reliefs were a real pain in the past. It now is a lot more tailored for sheet metal for the users that find this to be very important. Also, this design objects tree, it's starting to separate some of the objects inside of your design, where now you can easily find all the rounds and highlight them all together, pull them all together, make changes to them, and do what you need to do. So the design objects tree is new here. It'll highlight important things such as bends, rounds, and other important and similar features to those. So you can easily grab those and make changes. The last thing I want to do is I want to remove these right here. With sheet metal, you obviously have a problem sometimes with flattening the part out. If you have engraving or other extrusions that you don't necessarily care about or need to get your flat pattern with, you could highlight the extrusions that you don't need and quickly remove the surfaces from them. And just like that, they're gone. And now we have a sheet metal part that we just did a couple minutes of editing, but it now matches the design requirements that we need. Okay, so that kind of concludes all the stuff I wanted to cover today. Obviously, that's the tip of the iceberg, but I want to give you a quick overview of some of the productivity changes that we had here. I hope some of these can definitely be applicable to what you're doing. So just to kind of summarize here. We went over the usability, some of the user interface changes, such as the view manager, the new appearance states that we have in there. Everything is fully customizable again. You can apply your customizations to all modes. We saw some of the part modeling stuff. The box select is fantastic. The snapping tool is even better, able to use those references on the fly. Being able to right-click and go into full screen mode makes it a lot more efficient for you, a lot cleaner for you. You have more room to work. Intelligent mirroring is a big solution to a big headache that has been, troubling engineers who've done complex mirroring in the past. Unite technology, as always, is a very functional, strong technology and piece of a tool that is built in that you can make late-stage design changes with flexible modeling to your supplier parts, to SolidWorks, CATIA, NX parts. Very, very powerful tool. And of course, there's a lot more changes with the design objects tree, with the sheet metal in terms of flexible modeling, And we even have some stuff with drawings, which we could not get in today, but for the sake of time, I wanted to kind of show you the ones that I thought were going to be most effective from our customers. All right, so we're going to start our Q&A now. We have Andrew Harrison from PTC who will be answering your questions. He's very knowledgeable of Creo 4.0, so if you guys have any questions that have been pressing you, feel free to ask now. If the questions come up later, feel free to shoot me an email, and I'd be glad to dig in and answer those for you. So I appreciate you guys joining in. I hope you've learned something from this, and I hope there's something that you can definitely use. Again, any questions, please direct it towards me or our support line at tech30.com.
Thanks,
Thank you so
Dustin.
much.
Hey, thank you, Dustin. That was great. I'm sure that was very beneficial to a lot of people and who are watching this. And we do have some questions for you, Andrew. I know we're a little bit over time, so we'll make it pretty quick. I do have a couple of quick announcements. Recently, PTC has allowed users to get subscriptions, quarterly subscriptions. So if you have a contractor coming on your team, you don't need a full 12-month subscription. You do have the option to get any subscription license for just 3 months. And if you'd like a quote for those, please feel free to contact us at the email right there on the screen. There's also a program that I want to go over real quick called Get Active. This is a program that is expiring this quarter. So at the time of this recording, we only have about another month and a half for this. And what this allows you to do is there's a lot of users out there who have Creo Essentials, or they have an old version of Creo, excuse me. Maybe they're even on Wildfire. Maybe your company has sometime had a license 10 years ago, a perpetual license, and it went off maintenance. You still own the software, but you can't upgrade it. And if you wanted to retroactively pay the maintenance, it would be very expensive. If you want to buy a new perpetual license, it might be over your budget. PTC has created a program to help you in this situation. And what it does is allows you to convert a perpetual license to a subscription license. So basically what you'll do is you'll basically get rid of that old license, get a new one on a subscription basis at a significant discount. In fact, over 75% off the perpetual amount of buying a new license. And the beauty of it is you get locked in for that discounted rate for as long as you keep renewing. So if this is something of interest to you, maybe you love what you see here on Creo 4, but it would just be expensive if you wanted to retroactively pay maintenance. That's who this program is geared towards. So please contact us as soon as possible if this is of interest so we can get you that pricing before it expires. So Andrew, real quick, we got a couple of questions here I want to make sure we address before we end the session.
Sure.
Thank you. So one of them was, has PTC expanded the supported printers for the 3D printing integration within Creo 4.0?
Yes. So what we have is a partnership with Stratasys, and we've expanded that to another partnership with 3D Systems, so two very large printing companies. And when we look at those individually, Stratasys, we have support for their Connex line as well as their Uprint, Dimension, and Fortis lines. And the idea is that we'll be rolling out more support until we have the entire Stratasys line in phases. And our 3D Systems is another company where we have support, and we just started that partnership with Creo 4, so we're pretty excited. And we have support for their ProJet line as well as their upcoming extensions of the ProJet. So there's about 5 or 6 in that, and so we have support for that, and that'll be expanding as well.
Awesome, thank you. And Andrew, I know we don't have a lot of time to go over 3D printing, the additive manufacturing extension, but can you just give a quick 30 seconds overview of why it's important for this to be integrated and how it's different from what it was before in Creo 3?
Yeah, sure. So the idea is when you go to 3D print today, you usually are working through some type of third-party software to validate the model, make sure that it's actually going to print well, that you haven't missed any small gaps, and you're not having any thin walls that would cause the print to fail. So validating the model is very important. And typically today, customers are going through several third-party tools to do that, and then they need to come back to their design tool and make a change. So the idea is let's pull that inside of Creo, and let's start validating the model as you're designing so that when you get to 3D printing, you can 3D print right away. And in Creo 4, you can actually print directly to supported printers in Creo 4.
Okay, nice. So right on along with the whole theme here of increased productivity and accuracy. Thank you. So another question, we only got a couple more. So does Creo 4 support the STEP AP242 standard?
Yes, so that's a new standard, and we support that in Creo 4.
Okay, wonderful. And what standards is the GD&T advisory using? My understanding is this is more related to the model-based design extension of 3D models with GD&T.
Yes, so that's a new extension in Creo 4, and what we've done is, again, we've updated our standards, so that supports the standards for ASME Y14.5 as well as ISO 1101.
Okay, wonderful. And we may have briefly touched on this with Dustin, but if users go to PTC's website and download a free trial of Creo, what version will they be accessing?
You can download, so the free trial, you can download Creo 4 on a free trial today.
Okay, wonderful. And are there any limitations in that free trial that they download?
So it works like an essentials download or like a student version. So there are limitations with what files you can open and share just because it is a trial. But no, the only limitations is if you'd like extensions, and you'd have to request specific extension trials to go with that. But that would come with flexible modeling, I believe.
Okay, so they get access to flexible modeling with the free trial. Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you very much, Andrew. Those are all the questions that we got. We're already over time, so we're going to end this right now. Thank you all for joining us. Again, if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out. Support@tech-30.com, and our company's phone number 949-234-8202. Thank you very much. We hope to see you on the next webinar.